Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm here with the political vigilante, Graham Elwood, and the miserable liberal. How we doing?
Good.
So I've showed you this before. I'm going to show it again. I've showed you this video many times. Here's Nancy Pelosi. After being completely wiped out by the Republicans and losing to Trump, the most traumatic loss in the history of the Democratic Party, they lost to a political novice. Here's what she says.
The Democratic Party is in a moment of questioning about its identity. You were reelected to lead the Democrats in the House. What do you tell Democrats who want a new direction? And then go to you, what are you going to do differently?
Well, I don't think that people want a new direction. Our values unify us.
But I just said I want a new direction.
No, we just said we want a new direction.
No, you don't. You don't want that.
You don't? I don't want that?
No.
So the New York Times they went actually to Milwaukee to talk to people in Wisconsin, because Hillary lost Wisconsin, to see how they felt about it and how they voted. And many in Milwaukee's neighborhood didn't vote and don't regret it. I've said this a million times. People wag their finger, the corporate Democrats wag their finger at people like me who voted for third party when half the country doesn't bother to vote because the Democrats suck so much. So again, you're blaming the powerless instead of the powerful. It's the politicians' fault when half the country doesn't vote. That's not a problem with your electorate. That's your electorate being depressed. They didn't vote and they don't regret it. You want to hear? Half of the people in the country didn't show up for the election. Half of all eligible voters. Half of all eligible voters. So much more than half the country didn't vote. Half of all eligible voters didn't vote. And Wisconsin is a state that Hillary Clinton thought she was just going to win. She didn't even go and campaign there. And because, according to the New York Times, it has the nation's highest rate of voter participation. This year's 68.3% of the registered voters actually showed up to vote, which is that sounds like a high number, right? But by local standards, it was a disappointment. The lowest turnout in 16 years. And those no-shows were important. Mr. Trump won the state by just 27,000 voters. And who do you think didn't vote? Was it the rich people who were doing well off neoliberalism? Well, turns out the biggest drop was here in District 15, a stretch of fading wooden homes, sandwich shops, and fast food restaurants that is 84% black. In this district, voter turnout declined by almost 20%. According to Neil Albrecht, he's the executive director of the City of Milwaukee Elections Commission. So Milwaukee's lowest income neighborhoods, that's where the decline was. That's where the decline was, according to the New York Times. It is home to some of Milwaukee's poorest residents, and according to a 2016 documentary, Milwaukee 53206 has one of the nation's highest per capita incarceration rates. And you wanted them to come out and vote for Hillary Clinton, who made sure those incarceration rates were high. Super predators, the crime bill. You know what I'm talking about.
Money from the private prison industry.
Barack Obama keeping marijuana, Scheduled I drug. Making sure all those people stay in jail because of it. So then the reporter for the New York Times went to a barber shop in Milwaukee in that district. And asked them questions. So at Upper Cuts, that's the name of it, a bustling barbershop and green-trimmed wooden house, they talk of politics inevitably comes back to one man, Barack Obama. Mr. Obama's elections infused many here with a feeling of connection to national politics that they had never before experienced. But their lives have not gotten appreciably better, and sourness has set in. Well, we already voted for a black guy with a Muslim name. We already voted for a guy they said was a socialist, and he screwed us. Everything got worse.
8 years.
8 years.
Eight years.
Never stood up for a union in those 8 years. Never.
You would think that the poor communities, specifically the black communities, would be so much better.
Right?
No, they did not. Ferguson happened under Obama.
That's right.
I mean,
the militarization of the police departments happened under Obama.
It's like...
It was 2 wars to 7 under Obama. Income inequality exploded under Barack Obama. Opened the Arctic to drilling twice under Barack Obama. Made the banks bigger under Barack Obama. So I could keep going.
Flint water. I mean, yeah, Standing Rock. We could keep going.
Fracking.
Yes, but he got the Nobel Peace Prize.
Their lives have not gotten appreciably better, and sourness has set in. I thought it was because of assholes like me. I thought it was because of nightclub comedians and Jill Stein. No, it's actually a result of your shit policies? Really? That couldn't be. We don't have to change.
No, it's sexist burn bros. Sexist burn bros made this happen.
It was sexism. It was Bernie Bros. It was WikiLeaks. It
was Russia.
It was James Comey.
Right.
It was Russia. It was Russia that those people don't vote. It's because of Russia, right? Because sourness is set in. No, because they lived through a black president for 8 years, and they see it's bullshit. We went to the beach, said Manan Sabir, a 38 and owner of the Juice Kitchen, a brightly painted shop a few blocks down West North Avenue, using a metaphor to describe the emotion after Mr. Obama's election. He says, we went to the beach. That's what it felt like. And then 8 years happened. 8 years of nothing except things getting worse. All 4 barbers had voted for Mr. Obama, but only 2 could muster the enthusiasm to vote this time. And even then, it was sort of a protest. One wrote in Mrs. Clinton's Democratic opponent, Bernie Sanders, and the other wrote in himself. So there you got 4 Barack Obama voters, none of them voting for Hillary Clinton. 2 of them don't even bother to vote up, but to show up to vote. And the 2 that do, vote third party.
I would love,
but it's. I'm sure it's still nightclub comedians. I'm sure it's still Susan Sarandon.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's somebody else with no money and no power. And whenever you hear someone doing that, blaming people like me or blaming people like Susan Sarandon or Jill Stein, you know those people are not to be trusted or listened to anymore.
I'd love to see some of these privileged white lady, neoliberals go into this barbershop and talk that mess.
That's what
don't
I would
just
love
say.
to
Don't just say it on Twitter.
I want to see Deborah Messing go into that barbershop. Where's Deborah Messing, who can't blame Susan Sarandon enough? I want her to go into there and say, "You should have voted for Hillary."
Yeah, go in there.
I want Debbie Wasserman Schultz to show up there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That
me
would
too.
be great.
Gets better. This article. This is really great work by the New York Times. I bust them when they do it wrong, which is most of the time. But here they are doing a good job. So, I'm so numb, said John Toney, 45, who had written in Mr. Sanders. He said no president in his lifetime had done anything to improve the lives of black people, including Mr. Obama, who he voted for twice. It's like I should have known this would happen. We're worse off than before. We're worse off. But still, it's Russia. I bet it's Russia. It has nothing to do with your neoliberal policies, right? Has nothing to do with your corporatism. Has nothing to do with that, right? They admitted that they could not complain too much. Only 2 of them had voted, but there were no regrets. I don't feel bad, Mr. Fleming said, trimming a mustache. Milwaukee is tired. Both of them were terrible. They never do anything for us anyway. This is why you have Trump. Not because of Russia, not because of Bernie Bros, James Comey, WikiLeaks, Jimmy Dore, Susan Sarandon, or Jill Stein. It's because the Democratic Party has failed the country. Failed. 8 years of Barack Obama made shit worse. Slightly less worse than it would have been under Republicans. One exception was a guy named Justin Babar, who said he voted for Mr. Trump as a protest against Mrs. Clinton. He blamed her husband's policies for putting him in prison for 20 years. Oh, I wonder why they won't vote for me.
Oh, but Jimmy, that's sexist to say that the wife of the husband that's sexist to say. Oh, right.
As for the claims of racism that have dogged Mr. Trump, Mr. Babar wasn't worried. It's better than smiling to my face but going behind closed doors and voting against our kids. This is straight from the mouths of the people who didn't elect Hillary Clinton, who she thought was going to vote for her.
Her firewall.
Her firewall said F you. Why? Because she put him in prison. And then she shipped their jobs out of the country with the NAFTA, and then she wanted to do it with the TPP. At the time they were trying to get those people to vote for her, Barack Obama was pushing the TPP at the top of his lungs, ignoring his base again. And then you lost to Trump, but it doesn't matter that they lost to Trump. They're okay with it. You don't get that. That's what people don't get. And people who wag their finger at me and Susan Sarandon don't get that. Again, it's easier to be angry at someone with no power than it is to get mad at the people who actually have power.
So you're telling me that Barack Obama could have spent money helping a social program, could have helped anyone in this article, just any American.
How about a public option?
How about any of that? But instead, he dropped 26,171 rockets in 2016 alone.
In 2016 alone.
How much money was that? Just the 2016 rocket budget.
Right?
Tell me what that is.
Just this last bombing they did in Syria, they could have paid to repipe Flint 3 times over.
Yep.
3 or 4 times. Mm-hmm. And you wonder why we have Trump as president. You still wondering? I bet it's because of somebody with no money and no power like me or you or Steph or Jill Stein.
Yeah, let's blame the Green Party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Green Party that's always been here.
That's what we blamed them in 2000 when
Yep.
another Democrat ran another shitty campaign.
Yep.
So let's blame the little old Green Party. It's like blaming a farmer's market.
If the Green Party, if the Green Party actually had this much power, you'd think that the powerful people would try to woo them.
Yeah. Or
Instead
they'd
of-
win and they'd put someone in office if they had this much fucking power.
Yeah. So if you need our votes, what you're supposed to do is come get them. If you need those guys' votes, which she did, you're supposed to go get their votes. She didn't. She offered them nothing.
She offered
them a single-payer healthcare system that will never come to pass.
and her slogan was, "I'm with her."
I'm with her. She's not with you.
She's really letting you know that she's really just concerned about herself
Yes.
and not the concerns of yours. Anybody in Milwaukee, definitely not concerned about that.
Yeah, I'm not with you guys working as barbers in an economically depressed area. Some of you who went to prison as a result of my husband's policies that I backed publicly. I'm not for you. You better be for me. And if you're not, then you must hate women.
Oh, well, I do hate women, Glam. That's why I voted for Jill Stein.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, no, she's a woman. Oh, my plan. She's a woman, too.
But you hate smart, powerful women. Oh, shit, she's a doctor. Ah, God damn it.
I'm an incel. Involuntary celibate.
Oh, okay.
That's a new thing. You know that, right?
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. But sure. Maybe we'll do a video about it. But that guy who killed all those people in Toronto was an incel.
Oh, boy.
I know, with a car. Okay. That's why. And it's so obvious, even the New York Times knows it. Even they know it, the New York Times. They're just one time.
When the corporate media starts to kind of get it right, I go, wow. Maybe you guys, this is amazing.
Well, it just goes to show you they know.
Yeah.
They know better. They don't want to accept it. Because if they accept it, this is called cognitive dissonance of the ruling class. Because if they accept it, they'll have to change. But they don't want to change. And they don't care if they lose to the Republicans. You got to understand this. It's actually almost better for them. Because then you need them more. That's what they're trying to push, except people are done with the Democrats now. Look at those guys. 41% of the people in Iowa who voted in the Democratic primary call themselves socialists.
I bet you that number's up 2 years later.
I bet it is too. It's only going to go up.
Yeah.
Think about that in Iowa. It's not in San Francisco or New York, Manhattan. It's not in Seattle. It's not in some liberal place that's in a bubble. Iowa. 41% of the primary voters in the Democratic primary in Iowa call themselves socialists.
If you would have just asked me to guess, I would have put the number at under 10%.
Me too.
Maybe 15. Maybe.
Yeah.
No way would I sit at 40. No way.
There you go. But the Democrats, it's probably my fault. I'll try to do better next election. Our next live Jimmy Dore show is July 1st in Portland, Oregon. There's a link for tickets for all of our live shows right there. And if you can remember, please take a moment to make sure you're subscribed to the show. It only takes a second. You probably think you're subscribed, but you probably aren't. Just make sure you're subscribed. Click that bell so they send you a notice when we drop a video. Otherwise, they won't tell you. And if you become a premium member or a Patreon, we give you hours of bonus material every week. And we do a live chat every Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific time where you can ask us questions and we'll answer them. Plus, we're on Steam It. We're steaming it right now.